All right, everybody, welcome back to Detroit Lions Live at A to Z Sports Detroit. I'm Mike Payton, your host. We're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right into it, man, because yesterday was crazy, right? This was a game that I know everybody's going to show me the Vegas odds and say, hey, the Lions were favored in this game, and I totally understand that. But let's be real. This was a game that a lot of fans and a lot of media thought the Lions were going to lose. They thought they were destined to not only lose, but get beat up. I mean, I had people in my comments saying Dak Prescott was going to throw for 500 yards in this game. I had people telling me all week how bad this Lions defense is and how bad everybody else is and how they can't get anything going on offense. Lions went out there, put up 44 points, and absolutely, well, for the most part, dominated this game. Really, they took a lead. They never lost it. They won the game. They skyrocketed their playoff hopes. They went from, if they would have lost this game, we're talking today, right now, I'd be saying to you that the Lions have a 12% chance of making the playoffs. But because they won this game, they're up to 54%, 55%. The percentages change depending on who you're looking at. But if the Athletic has them at 54%, that's pretty dang good. You can get yourself back into the playoff picture as the actual picture is framed. Probably not this week, but next week with a win, and the way the rest of the division goes and how everything goes, you could find yourself back in the playoff picture as early as next week. But this is huge. This was absolutely what the Lions needed. They needed to go out there, and if there were ever a game that you needed to show that you could still be yourself, this was the one. And they absolutely did that. Jahmyr Gibbs, you got to talk about it. We got to talk about Jahmyr Gibbs because yesterday he did something very special. His third hat trick of the season. But not just that. He ties Barry Sanders' record for the most touchdowns by a player under the age of 24, which is not easy to do. We're talking about a Hall of Famer. We're talking about the guy that your grandpa or your dad, or even if it's not a guy who's a Lions fan, will tell you is the best player, one of the best players, best running back to ever play this game. Jahmyr Gibbs just kind of comes out of nowhere, and he does it. What a huge thing for him. Goes 121 yards. Now, you would have liked to see a better ground game. He had 3.6 yards per carry. He was kept under 50 yards on the ground, but that's fine. It is what it is. This is more of a pass game. We kind of knew that was going to be what the recipe was going to be coming into this game, just based off of the fact that Dallas has been better at stopping the run, but they have not been as good at stopping the pass. So that's kind of what the doctor ordered in that game. But still, huge thing for Gibbs to do. 47 touchdowns. He has a chance against LA on next Sunday to break that record. And it's just, he's not even 24 years old yet. He's not even 25 years old yet. It's just insane what this guy could be. And, it has me thinking a little bit because you always hear, don't pay running backs. Well, you pay this one, right? Like this is the guy that you pay because you can't just go out and find another Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't care what anybody says with the draft nerds tell you or what guys on, certain radio stations in town will say. You can't just go get another Jahmyr Gibbs. He's up for an extension after the season. You got to believe he will be the league's highest paid running back going into next year. It's happening. It's happening. It's absolutely happening. TikTok, it's happening. Everybody else, it's happening. He's going to be the highest paid running back in the NFL going into next season. I guarantee it. Mark my words. Everything else, you got to look at defensively. This was just a good defensive performance. I know they put up, Cowboys put up 30 points, and that looks bad, but they got held to 5 field goals. I mean, a lot of that. Dang. A lot of that was I was just shocked. I was just shocked by that so much because, again, this Cowboys offense was supposed to throw 500 yards and just beat the heck out of the Lions. And in some degree, they did. DJ Reed had a really bad day. He allowed 9 catches for 130 yards. He did get that interception at the end that sealed the game. That's huge. But other than that, the Cowboys were held to 5 field goals. And that's the difference right here. You wanted pressure from the Lions, well, they brought it. They got 25 pressures, 4 sacks. Aiden Hutchinson did his thing, got the one-on-ones that we knew he needed to get. Going into this game, that's the way you need to look at Aiden Hutchinson right now. You might say, okay, well, he makes all this money. Maybe he's not that good. Okay, but if an entire team's offense game plan is to just stop him, and they're doubling him and tripling him and chipping him, I think that tells you just how good this player is. But what that does is open up one-on-one opportunities for Alquidi Muhammad, Marcus Davenport, Aleem McNeil, some of the other guys on the defensive line, and they needed to take advantage of those one-on-one opportunities that they got. And this week they did, especially Muhammad. 3 sacks in this game. That's huge for him. He's now the Lions' leading sack getter. Who would have thought, right? Just looking back at last week when everybody was saying just how bad this Lions defensive line was and how they couldn't stop anyone, they couldn't do anything. Now we're looking at a unit that just doesn't seem to match that thought process. Because I'm looking at the stats right now, and I see a team that is 4th in the league in quarterback pressures. That's 189 pressures. I know people don't think pressures are important, but they are super important because it's not just about getting sacks. Sacks are important. You want them. You want them as much as you can get them. But at the same time, you get a pressure that gets the quarterback off his spot, that forces him to make bad throws. You saw that yesterday with Dak Prescott. He had to make some fast throws. He threw 2 interceptions. That's what happens. And it also changes so much of what's happening in the secondary, because with that pressure, these guys don't have to try to hold on to these receivers as long as they have been. So then you go, okay, well, what about sacks? All right, well, sacks, the Lions are 5th in the league in sacks with 37 right now. So, I mean, again, someone has to tell me how this defense is bad, how this defensive line is bad. And I know everybody wants to say we're good and all this stuff based off of the whole Dan Campbell we're good thing, but like, they are good. They're good, guys. They're good. I mean, I don't know what more to say. They're good. But there is some bad. There is some bad. It's not on the defensive line though. It's in the secondary, and we got some really bad news this morning. Brian Branch is going to be out for the season with a torn Achilles. You absolutely hate to see it. This guy, has been playing really well. He's a Pro Bowl safety. He's coming into this season. ESPN went and polled a bunch of NFL execs and coaches, and they had him as their 2nd highest ranked safety in the entire league coming into this season. Like, that's how important of a loss this is. And you kind of have to wonder, okay, where do things go from here? I see I've got a comment here from Creo. When can Branch play next year? Look, I can't answer that. I would love to be able to tell you he's going to play week 1. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I haven't seen. I wouldn't even know how to read an X-ray. At this point, we just got to kind of wait until the team gives us word on that. You believe that maybe you might not see him for a while next season, but you don't know. I mean, every player is different. Everybody heals from injuries differently, so we don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Jake, get him on the Rodgers Achilles recovery plan. I don't know. Maybe Brian Branch has to go take some ayahuasca, or maybe he has to do a silent retreat or darkness retreat or whatever the heck it was that Aaron Rodgers was doing on mushrooms out in the woods somewhere in a different country. Maybe that's what Brian Branch needs to do to heal up on it. But I don't know. There are some players out there right now who could certainly help the Lions for the rest of the season. Adam Zintek is my guy, our Buffalo Bills beat writer. He's either calling me a savage or he's bringing up Darnell Savage, who the Commanders just released earlier this week. Actually, yesterday, Commanders released Darnell Savage. That guy is a former starter for the Packers. He is someone that I would not be shocked if the Lions put a claim in on, because they have tape on him. They know about Darnell Savage. So I actually have a list coming out after this video of some players some safeties I think the Lions could go get that are potential starters, and we'll see where that goes. But Darnell Savage is certainly somebody I would take a look at. But Yeah, losing Branch is hard, especially when you don't have Kirby Joseph. Right now it looks like Kirby's going to play next week. It certainly seems that's the way that things are going. He practiced this week. It was only for one day, but he did practice. He had his big knee brace on. He was fidgeting with it a little bit. He was trying to get used to it, and that's a whole thing. You never play with a knee brace. Now you are. It's different. But I think another thing that's lost in the mix here is that Thomas Harper, who's been starting for a few weeks now, went out of that game with a concussion yesterday. So we don't know. The Lions do have like a little mini bye week here. They don't have to play again until, 14, 15 days or something like that. That makes a big difference. So hopefully you get Harper back for the Rams game. But right now, if he's not playing, I don't know what you're doing. Maybe Kirby plays and maybe Daniel Thomas is the guy who could play next to him. They also have Eric Hallett and Lauren Strickland on the practice squad. Maybe you get one of those guys brought up. I'm not sure what you do, but definitely want to make sure that you go out and claim somebody, get somebody over the next couple of days and get them in the building and get them acclimated to what the team can do and see what you got. And that's really the best move that you can do at this point. But yeah, I mean, what a win. What a win. I don't want to just talk about the bad stuff. I don't want to just talk about how bad Brian Branch's injury is. I really want to focus in on just how, again, this team was supposed to be done, right? They were supposed to be beaten up. This was supposed to be it. Amon-Ra St. Brown wasn't even supposed to play in this game. Somehow he comes out, he tests his ankle, he gives a thumbs up before the game. Next thing you know, 6 catches for over 90 yards. What a game. What a game for him. Cheesy Charlie. Do you see Kirby coming back against the Rams? I do. Yeah, at this point, it certainly seems like Kirby Joseph will play against the Los Angeles Rams next Sunday. But I don't want to guarantee that or anything because anything can happen in practice over the next few weeks and or the next few days, I should say, and we'll see where it goes. But back to the Lions win over the Cowboys. I thought Jared Goff played a great game. I thought there were some moments where he was under pressure and still got some throws off. There was this really great moment. I mean, he had a guy on top of him and got a throw off to Jameson Williams. JMO had to come back for it, but he's still a really good catch. You love to see that kind of stuff. It kind of shows you that maybe the whole thing with Goff being under pressure isn't fully what people think it is. I think he's a lot better at it than you might think. What's going on with Rakestraw? Right now, he's season-ending injury. I mean, again, without being a doctor, it's hard for me to say when he's going to be back. I would expect that he's with the Lions in training camp, but I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. It's one of those things where I wish I were a doctor. I wish I were the Lions doctor so I could just give everybody all these answers and that all the answers would be great. But unfortunately, I just don't want to do the irresponsible thing and tell you guys he'll be back at this day and then he doesn't come back. And then you go, why the heck did Mike say that? He lied to us. And I can't do that. I want to put some focus on the offensive line a little bit because we got to see Miles Frazier's debut in this game, which went pretty well. I think, Pro Football Focus will tell you it went really badly. They're kind of weird with their grades at times, but I thought he had a good game. I thought once he came in, Tristan Colon, who had started the game initially, was definitely letting up some pressures. He was letting guys get past. He was getting guys in Jared Goff's face, and he did come back in and play a little bit more. He had a really good block on a Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown later in the game. So I don't want to just dump on Colon. I thought he had some good moments, but Miles Frazier comes in, plays his first game at left guard in the NFL, and I thought he played fairly well. He allowed 2 pressures and 1 hurry and 1 quarterback hit, but other than that, the Lions were able to get things done in the pass game. They were able to get things done in the run game when needed. You'd like to see a better run game going forward, but they were able to get some things done. And you got to wonder where things go from here Christian Mahogany has been not necessarily back at practice. He's been back in practice in the sense that he's on the sideline doing things with the trainer, which is usually a good sign that a player could be coming back soon. So, that's been kind of the whole question of is Mahogany going to come back this year? And he'll be able to be activated here in a couple of weeks. We'll see if that happens. But in the meantime, I would love to see more Miles Frazier from the Lions. I would love for them to give him that starting left guard spot against the Rams and see what happens. It's a trial by fire situation, especially in LA, which has a really good defensive line. But these are where you learn. These are the moments where you learn it. And last year they did that with Mahogany, and it worked out in a lot of ways. He was able to come in, get some experience in some big games, and it worked. So we'll see where that goes. But I'm keeping a big eye on Miles Frazier and what he's going to be doing going forward. And then, yeah, man, that's really all I've got to talk about on this Friday. I'll leave the floor open for some questions if anybody has any. I'd love to answer some. But man, just a big win by the Lions. I just gotta say, thanks, Adam. I appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, man, just good stuff. I feel like maybe there's some, one more disappointment. I got to say, one more disappointment. Going into this game, I talked with our Cowboys beat writer, Mauricio Rodriguez, and the big thing that we talked about was how the Lions could take advantage of the Cowboys offensive line because it was weak in the tackle areas, and that we knew Hutchinson was going to get doubled, tripled, chipped, all that. And the thing was, this was going to be the game to show that Al-Quadin Muhammad and Marcus Davenport could take advantage of the one-on-ones. And absolutely, Muhammad did that. 3 sacks, great game for him. But, man, Davenport, I had people asking me after the game if he even played in this game. And I actually had to go look to see if he played in this game. It was that bad. He was actually out there a lot. And he walked out with all pressure and no tackles. And it was just a really quiet game for him. Didn't really do anything. It was just, it's disappointing, if we're being honest, because just coming into this season, in the summertime, I'm telling you guys, you won't believe me now, but in the summertime, I looked at this guy. We all looked at this guy. We were like, holy crap, who is this guy? We've never seen this Marcus Davenport before. He looked incredible. I'm serious. He looked like a guy who was going to be great. And he just has not been that. He got injured again. And, luckily for the Lions, this was a really incentive-laden contract. And he's not going to hit a lot of the incentives that were in there. So it's going to wind up being a pretty cheap deal for them. But I don't see Marcus Davenport coming back to the Lions after this. I think this is probably going to be it. Just to bring that up, Parker, one more time. The Lions are now at 54% for their playoff chances. So if they would have lost, it would have been 12%. Now it's up to 54%. And that's really depending on what algorithm you're using. But the 54% per The Athletic, I think they have one of the better playoff machines out there. So that is definitely a big deal. What do we got here? I know Hutch is the prime focus, but do you still expect more? Cheesy Charlie or Chad, you and I have kind of gone back and forth on this on Twitter quite a few times. I get it, man. You see a guy getting paid that much money, you expect that he is doing the same thing that Myles Garrett is doing or Micah Parsons is doing. But again, they have much stronger supporting casts than Aiden Hutchinson does. And no matter how good a player is, you just can't beat a double, triple chip every time, man. You just can't do it. You can't. But if he had guys that were taking advantage of the one-on-ones more often, like they did last night, like Myles Garrett has Malik Collins and Isaiah McGuire and some of the other guys, or has Micah Parsons, or did I say Myles Garrett? Yeah, I said Myles Garrett has Malik Collins and Isaiah McGuire, and then Micah Parsons has Rashawn Gary, and Devonta Wyatt, and like those guys are taking advantage of the opportunities that they get. And when that happens, that shifts the focus off of them. It shifts the focus off of the really great player and onto these other guys that are getting these pressures and sacks. And then the really great player gets his opportunity. Hutchinson's just not getting that. It's just not happening every week. He's getting pressure. He's making plays. If you watch this game yesterday, he made a lot of great plays. He made a lot of huge pressures. He got Davenport off of, or Dak Prescott rather, off of his spot multiple times. It didn't turn into any sacks, but that doesn't mean that he's not good. That doesn't mean he's not good. He's a great player still. And yeah, should Tom Kennedy continue to be the guy on kick returns? Absolutely. He had a 42-yard return, a 40-yard return, a 38-yard return. He looked absolutely great yesterday, and I definitely think that Tom Kennedy has earned the right to continue to have that role. You asked earlier if he was going to get a 53-man roster spot. He is currently on the 53-man roster, so he's not going back to the practice squad or anything like that. He'll stay, and he should absolutely be the starting kick returner going forward. Him and Sailors back there, it just made such a difference. He was so good in that game yesterday. Should you be rooting for the Bears or the Packers? The Beats or the Pack? I think you got to root. You got to root for the Packers. You got to root for the. I know that's going to make you throw up in your mouth a little bit, but if the Packers can go out there and sweep the Bears, there is a very real scenario to where the Lions, even at 11-6, could beat the Bears and knock them out of the playoffs and win the NFC North at the end of the season. Like that's a scenario that exists, and it's better if you're 12-5. But there are scenarios, there's multiple scenarios where the Lions can win the NFC North and knock the Bears completely clean out of the playoffs. And, man, that's the route you want them to go. Because if you got to try to beat the Packers, who has 2 wins over you, it's not going to happen. But the Packers do have a harder schedule going forward. They have the Bears twice. They've got the Broncos. They've got the Ravens, who, I don't know if we can totally trust the Ravens right now, but they are a team fighting for a playoff spot as well. And then the Bears have the Packers twice. They have the Lions and the 49ers. So everyone's looking at this Lions schedule, but man, those other teams got some hard schedules too. So we'll see what happens. But I think if the Packers sweep the Bears, that's going to make things a little bit easier to get into the playoffs, especially if the Lions wind up having a 2-game tiebreaker over the Bears. So root for the Packers, I guess. Ugh. Let's see if we got any other questions in here. Do I think the Lions are a Super Bowl caliber team without Branch? It makes life a lot harder. I still think that I think at the end of the year, it's all about who gets hot. And we've seen some teams get hot. I mean, we saw a New York Giants team, not to bring up something that's way in the past, but like I always go back to this Giants team that almost missed the playoffs and then made it in like at under the wire and then went and won the Super Bowl over the undefeated New England Patriots. Like that team is just kind of my go-to team for like, look, anything can happen. I don't know if the Lions are that team. I don't know if the Lions could do that same thing, but I do think that it's all about when you get hot. And it's all about just getting the wins. You're going to allow some points over the next few weeks, and in the playoffs, it's going to happen. But can you score more? We'll see. That's all it's about. I still think that this is a Super Bowl caliber team. Well, I don't know if that's this year or if it's next year. I don't see this being the end of their window or their window being anywhere near closed. They're still a really young team. Still have a ton of great players. Have some good picks coming up. You've got a lot of money to spend. This Jared Goff restructure I'm expecting to happen after the season's going to open up $40 million for the Lions to get all these other guys extensions done, and they'll be able to maybe do some playing around in free agency, and maybe Brad Holmes will say F them picks and go out and get himself a stud edge rusher that can play opposite Aiden Hutchinson. Don't expect a huge Pro Bowler, all pro guy, but I like Kayvon Thibodeau for this role. I think you send the Giants a second round pick, you get back a guy who's pretty affordable, and you see where you go from there. But I just think I just don't at all see the window being closed. Is it closed this year? I don't know. I think it's a lot harder than it would have been with Branch, but we'll see. All right, and then I'll answer this last one here. What's the Lions' priority for the draft? Center, guard, etc. It's really tough at this point because there's some questions we don't know the answer to. And the first question is Frank Ragnow going to play next year? If Frank Ragnow does play next year, then maybe you're able to step back on drafting another center, at least early in the draft. Maybe that could make you want to draft somebody in the second or fourth round, or maybe trade up in the third, and you say, well, okay, if Ragnow is going to play this year, we'll have this guy sit on the bench for a little while and develop. If Ragnow doesn't play, do the Lions still want to move Ratledge over to center? That's the other question, because going into the season, Brad Holmes was asked about this, and he said that the plan was still to move Ratledge to center, but they wanted to go Glasgow this year just to give Ratledge a year under his belt in the NFL. So we'll see. Are they still going to make that change? If they do, well then, yeah, you're going to have to go guard somewhat early. And there's some guys in the first few rounds that you can draft that are going to help. I like the Vega Loani. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher his name. I like the Vega kid from Penn State. I think he's a really good guard. And then there's a couple other guys, just Brailsford from Alabama, and Connor Lew would have been great from Auburn, but he tore his ACL, so that's probably not going to happen. But yeah, I think it's just really all going to depend on Ragnow. It's really the biggest question: is Ragnow coming back? And if he is, go from there. I think the Lions are going to be looking for an edge rusher early. I think the Lions are going to be in at quarterback on this draft. I know people think I'm crazy for thinking that, but just look at all the schools that they've been going to this year: Oregon, Alabama, USC. If there's a good quarterback at a school, the Lions have gone to scout him this year. So, and plus this is just a really great quarterback draft. And it's one where you can get a guy who you can develop for a few years. And when Jared Goff is no longer your guy, when 28, 29, you've got a 24-year or 25-year-old kid who is ready to go. So I think that's the way to go. That's the way the Packers did it. That's the way the Chiefs did it. That's the way most teams should do it if they have the ability to. So we'll see where that goes. But again, man, love talking with you guys. And we will see you next Wednesday. We're going to go to Wednesday and do kind of a pre-show-ish type thing before the Lions play the Rams. So we will see you guys then. And have a good weekend.